Hi there guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is James and I've been making videos about teaching abroad, mainly in Asia. And so far in the story we got to the point where I moved to China, and that was a huge change, as I explained, from my very comfortable life that I had back in the UK. So far in the story, we've got to the point where I arrive at the hotel in Beijing at 5 a.m. in the morning, very early, around that time. And as I explained in the last video, I had a very interesting ride there in the taxi from the airport, and I got, I made a mistake by taking the expensive taxi. So that took a lot of my money that I had at that time. So anyway, I'm at the hotel. I end up paying for the room when I'm not supposed to. Okay, but luckily I got the money back the next day once they realized their mistake. So let's move on to the point where I meet the people who are going to do the training with me at this new company that I got a job at in Beijing. So some people showed up at the hotel. I think it was a Wednesday morning, and I realized that there were other people who were going to train with me on the course who were in that same hotel, but of course I never met them. So it was the first time I met them, and it's a good group of guys that were there. From America, a guy from Britain as well. And we got taken on the Beijing subway to go to training, teacher training. So we went right up. We were stationed more in the kind of southern part of Beijing. So we went right up to the top on the subway there, and we went to the headquarters of this company called First Sleep that I was working at. And the first day was basically just meeting to tell us about what was going on, So the main thing they had to tell us there was, bearing in mind that I was supposed to do my training for like a week in Beijing and then move to a school in a city called Zhengzhou, which is in the middle of China. But then they told us that there'd been a change in the visa rules. So it used to be that you could get, as long as you had a work visa, then you could work anywhere in China, or at least the authorities weren't enforcing or were allowing you to do that. Maybe it wasn't technically legal, but they were just letting that happen. Maybe because as long as companies paid some money or whatever. But for some reason they decided that they were going to be stricter with this. So in other words, your work visa, it had to be you had to get it in the city where you would be living and working. So in other words, if my visa had Beijing on it, I had to live and work in Beijing, right? So they basically told most of us, some were going to stay in Beijing anyway, but people like me, I was told I couldn't go to Zhengzhou or for at least for 3 months until they worked it out with the authorities, whatever that was. Bearing in mind I was very new to China at this point, so I had no idea how things worked. A bit of a surprise on the first day. Okay, you're going to be staying in Beijing for 3 months at least, and then you can maybe move. All right. So, I wasn't like overly disappointed at that time, because I didn't really know what was the difference between Beijing and Zhengzhou. Beijing would maybe be better for me. Who knew? So yeah, that was that first day meeting. And then we went into some training the next couple of days. And, I'd already done like a TEFL, which is like mostly an online training course, which is teaching English as a foreign language. And, but I had no idea what to expect for this training. And, yeah, I just felt completely out of my depth for those 2 days. Just everything was split into, teaching the course, like the curriculum that they have, how you do it. But then there was also, they were teaching you, and this is very valuable, because I don't think enough companies do this. They teach you how to teach, how to actually be a teacher in these kind of lessons, So how do you manage the class? There was a whole day on class management, and, so how you use reward systems, write their names on the board and give them points or hearts or whatever. And then if they don't perform well, you can take them away or threaten to take them away. And things like that. And, how to get the kids into routines, all of those things. So that was very useful. But again, it was so new for me. And, I just felt I was very nervous as well, because we had to perform in front of a group of like 20 people, 20 strangers, and very nerve-wracking, very, very nerve-wracking. And yeah, I didn't do very well. So there was 2 days of that, and then we had the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we had to do observations. Now, in this kind of schools, they're after school and weekends. So the weekends are the busiest times. So they sent you to different schools, maybe a day or a couple of days in one place. And yeah, there you would just observe. You had to take notes, fill in forms for each class, and it's very detailed, it's very good. And you got to see, how teachers did things at this company. And it was very useful. Yeah, so after that, we moved into the weekends, which at this company, these type of schools, normally Monday and Tuesday. And, we went, I hung up with this other British guy, and we went to Tiananmen Square, we went to, the Forbidden City in that. It was, an amazing place to go and visit. I didn't say Mao's tomb for some reason. I didn't go in there. But yeah, it's a great couple of days just looking around. And then we went back into training for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then we had a test on the Friday. And again, I didn't think I did particularly well in that because I didn't study enough. But luckily, they didn't really need you to know that much at that point, because most people didn't know that much, I think, unless you'd done this kind of thing before. So yeah, that was the training. And then they posted me at a school in Beijing, where I started on the Saturday, and again I was just mostly observing. And yeah, that was the beginning of my 3 months I had in Beijing before I could move on. And yeah, just as a side note, I mentioned before, in the hotel I was at, I was by myself in the room, and the guy who was supposed to be sharing with me on the course, Scottish guy, he showed up like a few days in. He was just, just came late for some reason. And he just was giving me like some story about, he's got a business back in Scotland and salon and all that stuff. And he's just, he just seemed like he was, all over the place. And of course, he came there, he stayed a night there, or 2 nights there, and then he just disappeared again, which is weird. And I'm sure he took some more cash out of my wallet as well, but maybe But maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But yeah, he was. That was very random. You know, he just came for 2 days, didn't bother doing any of the training. He just decided, oh, I'm not gonna bother with this. You know. So maybe he got like a work visa and then got him in the country. So anyway, so that's the training that I've talked about, and so next time we're going to talk about what it was like those first few months in Beijing, and you know, the challenges I had. Okay, so thanks for listening. Hope you found it interesting and helpful if you're thinking of starting a journey in this kind of career. And like and subscribe, and see you on the next one. Bye bye.